First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
A lot of people have their stories about COVID and about whether or not you should get the vaccine. And you're hearing a lot of stories today about people, after deciding not to get the vaccine, getting the virus and having a bad story, which inspires them to tell others, get out there, this is serious, get this vaccine. And on the line right now is Jaynee Davis-Brown. Jaynee, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, tell us give us the background of your story and what's your story?
Mackenzie is 28 years old, and it was me. I encouraged her not to get the vaccination because she was pregnant. I'm not against the vaccination for anybody else. Mm-hmm. My son got it. Her husband got it. I had an appointment myself for the vaccine, but that was when the Johnson & Johnson got recalled, so my appointment was canceled.
Yep.
I rescheduled at the local pharmacy, and my granddaughter was sick that day, so I missed that appointment as well. But back to Mackenzie, I strongly discouraged her from getting the vaccine while she was pregnant. About probably almost a month ago, my son Joe, who, again, was vaccinated with the Johnson vaccine, he started to get sick. We did not even think 1 second about COVID because he was vaccinated. Then about 2 days after Joe got sick, I got sick. 2 days after that, Dan got sick. 2 days after that, Mackenzie got sick. It was the worst sickness ever. Mackenzie called her doctor. The doctor said she didn't seem to have COVID symptoms. She thought perhaps it could be the flu.
Yeah.
That she needed to rest. So Dan, my husband Dan, who was not vaccinated, was the sickest he's ever been and is still experiencing symptoms from it. Mackenzie got very, very exhausted, and she started to have a little difficulty breathing. So I took her to get tested on a Sunday.
Yeah.
On a Monday, I'm sorry.
How long ago? How long ago did all of this happen? By the way.
The end of July.
Okay.
So this was the 24th, 25th, 26th of July, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So I took her to get tested. She tested positive. They told her that it sounded like she had bronchitis. They prescribed her with an inhaler. She's 36 weeks pregnant. I brought her home. About 3 hours later, she could not breathe.
Wow.
Her husband took her to the emergency room. They immediately admitted her because they said she had COVID pneumonia. The next morning, she was coughing so hard that her water broke, and she was scheduled for immediate emergency cesarean.
Wow.
So the baby would come 3 weeks early. And then, so she had the baby. She woke up out of surgery. She seemed fine. She looked great. She looked wonderful. And then that evening, she just started to have difficulty breathing again. The next day, they moved her from the pediatric floor to a different floor. Then they moved her from there to special care. They moved her from special care to ICU, where the ICU team said that she was on her very last breath when they intubated her.
Wow.
So it was horrifying, absolutely horrifying. You can't touch her. You can't speak with her.
Yeah.
As a mother, all I wanted to do was hold my daughter, and I guess I never related to a ventilator as a medically induced coma. Mm-hmm. And she, they had to move her and reposition her. And on the 5th day, we were not told she wasn't going to make it, but it got very bad.
Yeah.
Her oxygen level dropped very much, and they call it a PEEP. I don't know what that stands for. It's something to do with the amount of pressure that they put into the lungs to expand them.
Yeah.
They had to increase that. it was just hell. It was hell. And then they started to slowly unsedate her, and Mackenzie decided on her own to rip out her ventilation tube. Mm. And when she did that, they realized that her oxygen level was staying where they wanted it to be.
Okay.
So they slowly got her out of her. Sedated state.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next day, I was in my house, and the phone call. There was a phone call from Bassett Hospital, and I was terrified because it had been a good day and a bad day and a good day and a bad day, and I thought for sure it was going to be a bad day.
Yeah.
But it was my daughter.
Wow.
She was awake enough to call me and say, "Hi, Mama."
Wow. It's amazing.
And this had to, through all of this, I cannot imagine what you were going through, thinking that you were the one convincing her not to get the vaccination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was all my fault.
Well,
don't say it was your fault.
You can't. Yeah, we're all just trying to do the right thing, whatever we think is right, and you're fearing that maybe the vaccination wouldn't be good because she was pregnant, right? I mean, you're just going based on information that we're hearing. You know?
I did research it, and you can't believe anything you research anymore. I mean, everything is so cited.
Well, that's the problem.
You get to the right site, it might tell you this is the way it is. You get to the other site, it tells you something
different. Yeah. That's why I think it's so important to speak with your doctor, and but it's and every doctor has the majority of doctors are certainly pro vaccination, but I do think though that an experience like this helps other people because while there may be some complications with the vaccination, the complications if you're one of those, if your number comes up as one of those people that does very, very badly with this virus, boy, it can be an awful experience.
It was an awful experience.
Yeah.
And Jaynee, I'll say this, the fact that you're open about sharing your story and, that you've kind of been able to think this over and, I'm glad Mackenzie's doing well. I think it's really noble what you're doing at this point now to try and get the word out because it is a difficult decision for people to make, but ultimately, I think that vaccine is better than no vaccine.
Right. Through Mackenzie's Facebook group, Dear Mackenzie Would Love, if you were to scroll through that, you would see how many minds have been changed.
Yeah.
I have had so many people reach out to me and say I was completely against it, but I had never experienced somebody so close to me go through such a horrific event. So now our minds have changed and we've been vaccinated.
It is, you're not alone because a lot of this has so much to do with something hitting home. When something hits home, it is the one thing that changes people's opinion. And it has through this entire thing. It has been that way from the start of this. If you're one of those people who has not been in contact with anyone that's gone through this, you may very well think differently. So,
and
listen.
they did tell us that it was the Delta variant.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It was. So, and perhaps that's how we were all so misled because Joe, like I said, her brother Joe came down with it first. We have no idea where it came from. We rarely leave our house. But, and that's where the confusion was because he got the vaccine. How could he be sick?
Well, and that's the part of this is that someone who gets the vaccine can still get it. We heard from someone recently who both husband and wife both had the vaccine, both got it, and both had very serious symptoms in the last 2 weeks. So it can happen. They do. However, when you look at the overall picture, the numbers are clear. The majority of people that are hospitalized are not vaccinated. That's just is a fact. And
I can tell you that Joe's symptoms only lasted about 4 days, and on the 5th day, he took off and went for a 4-mile run.
Okay. All right. Well, that is pretty impressive.
That is very impressive because, again, his father wasn't vaccinated, and we're on week 4 of him. He's
still dealing with it.
And a workaholic. And it's not like Dan not to work at all.
The fatigue is terrible.
The fatigue, Dan slept for probably the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But in addition to his physical well-being, he was in an emotional state as well because he was worried about his daughter.
Sure.
So I don't know if that increased the fatigue, but he did come home yesterday again and take like a 15-minute power nap and then went to work. But if you knew my husband, you would know how badly this has affected him because he's always a workaholic.
Jaynee, how is the baby doing? How's Mackenzie doing? What's the latest?
The baby is right here beside me. He's just getting ready to make some noise, but he is doing amazing. Mackenzie is doing great physically, and she is making great progress every day with her brain fog. She is no longer having hallucinations.
Wow.
She is now, I am trying to, I don't mean to say this in a controlling way, but I am a controlling person. But I am I'm encouraging her to take more care of the baby. So she comes here during the day. I have the baby at night, and she comes here during the day while her husband goes to work.
And it's been that bad on her where she can't even take care of her own child. It's
correct. And when she first came out of her sedation, she did not remember at all having a baby.
Wow.
And she had severe hallucinations for the first 2 days. She would call and just, Mom, you got to keep stopping. You can't keep coming here in the middle of the night and causing trouble, Mom. You can't touch everything, and you're going to get in trouble with the nurses. Mackenzie, I wasn't there.
Is that from the morphine that was happening, or is
she did
that?
not have morphine.
I don't think they'd give her morphine.
I'm just wondering if that's a COVID symptom or if that was based on some type of
that gave
painkiller
her for the intubation. Yeah.
I think they had mentioned the fact that she had been sedated for 7 days.
Okay.
I forgot to mention one thing that was incredibly terrifying. When she first got intubated, they told us they weren't certain that was going to work, so they had a helicopter flight.
Wow.
That they were going to take her to Rochester to do ECMO, which is an artificial lung.
Wow. So the reality is, and Jaynee, is that you've learned a great deal from this. You're recommending people get the vaccination. Don't put yourself in this situation. And I just thank you so much for telling your story today. Thank you.
So glad everybody turned out to be all right.
Have a great day with that little baby. All right.
Oh, I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Jaynee Davis Brown. And how about that story? Wow.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.